Her world changed when she learned the human warrior was her rightful husband. Astor's Princess Zara walked through the ancient archive halls of the Valtherian royal palace. Her long blue robes swept across the marble floor as she moved between the tall shelves filled with old books and data crystals. The archive was quiet except for the soft hum of the preservation fields that kept the ancient documents safe. She was looking for something specific today. Her grandmother, the old queen, had told her about an old treaty before she died last month. Look for the Human Alliance papers. The queen had whispered on her deathbed, the future of our people may depend on it. Zara had thought her grandmother was talking nonsense. Humans? Those primitive creatures who barely knew how to travel between planets. What could they possibly have to do with the mighty Valtherian Empire? But now, with strange reports coming from the outer colonies, Zara felt she should at least look. Her people had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They were strong, intelligent, and lived for centuries. What could possibly threaten them? She found the section marked Ancient Treaties and began searching. Most of the documents were about trade agreements with other advanced species, or peace treaties with the old enemy empires. Then she saw it, a crystal-marked human colonial agreement, year 2157. Zara picked up the crystal and placed it in the reading device. Soft blue light filled the air above the machine, and words appeared in the ancient Valtherian script. As she read, her eyes grew wide with surprise. The treaty was signed exactly 1,000 years ago between her great-great-grandmother, Queen Lyra the Wise, and something called the United Earth Colonial Government. According to the document, Earth had been facing a terrible threat from beyond their galaxy, something called the Void Fleet. Zara read on, becoming more confused. The treaty said that when this Void Fleet returned, the heir to the Valtherian throne must marry a human warrior. Only through this union could both species survive the coming darkness. This is crazy, Zara said out loud. She looked around the empty archive, feeling foolish for talking to herself. The treaty described the Void Fleet as creatures that could destroy entire star systems. They did not just kill people, they destroyed the very laws of physics that held worlds together. The document said they came from a place outside normal space and time. But the strangest part was what it said about humans. According to Queen Lyra's notes, humans had a special way of fighting that other species could not understand. They could win battles that should have been impossible to win. They thought about war in ways that confused even the wisest Valtherian generals. Humans as great warriors? Zara laughed. That's impossible. She had seen reports about humans. They were weak compared to Valtherians. They lived for less than 100 years. They had no natural telepathy or energy manipulation powers. Their technology was at least 500 years behind Valtherian science. Yet here was her greatest ancestor, known throughout history as the wisest queen who ever lived, saying that humans were the key to survival against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Zara continued reading. Queen Lyra had written personal notes in the margins of the treaty. One note caught her attention. The humans showed us something today that changed everything. They lost a battle but won the war. How is this possible? Their leader said they practiced something called acceptable losses. This concept is unknown to us, but perhaps it should not be. Another note read, the human general sacrificed his best ship to save our fleet. When I asked why, he said, ships can be replaced. Knowledge about the enemy cannot. We would never throw away our finest vessel. Perhaps this is why we might lose, and they might win. The final note made Zara's blood run cold. The void returns every 1,000 years. When they come again, find the humans. Only they know how to fight an enemy that cannot be defeated by normal means. Zara sat back in her chair, her mind racing. 1,000 years? That meant. She quickly calculated the dates. If the treaty was signed in 2157, and it was now 3,157, then exactly 1,000 years had passed. Suddenly, the archive's communication system chimed. A message crystal appeared in the delivery slot. Zara picked it up and activated it. Admiral Corax's face appeared in the blue light. Your Highness, the Admiral said, his face grim. "We have received urgent reports from the outer colonies. Strange ships have been detected at the edge of our territory. They do not respond to communication, and they appear to be scanning our worlds." Zara's heart began to beat faster. "What kind of ships, Admiral?" "Unknown design, Princess. They seem to phase in and out of normal space. Our sensors can barely detect them. When we sent a patrol to investigate, the ships disappeared. But not in any way our science can explain. They seem to fade from reality itself." The communication ended, leaving Zara alone in the archive with the ancient treaty still glowing above the reading device. She looked at the treaty again, reading the description of the Void Fleet. Ships that could phase in and out of normal space. Enemies that seemed to fade from reality itself. The words matched Admiral Corex's report exactly. "It cannot be," she whispered. But deep in her heart, she knew it was true. The Void Fleet had returned. Zara stood up quickly, making her decision. She would have to tell the Royal Council about the treaty. She would have to convince them that their only hope was to find these humans and their mysterious way of fighting. But first, she needed to learn more about present-day humans. Were they still the same species that Queen Lyra had found so impressive? Or had they become even weaker over the centuries? She walked to the modern information terminal and searched for recent reports about human civilization. What she found surprised her. Humans had spread across dozens of star systems. They had survived 3 major wars with other species. Most interesting of all, they had developed new fighting methods that other species called unconventional and unpredictable. Maybe, just maybe, her grandmother's dying words had not been the thoughts of an old, confused mind. Maybe the humans really were the key to survival. As she prepared to leave the archive, Zara took one last look at the treaty. According to the ancient law, she would have to marry a human warrior to fulfill the agreement. She tried to imagine what a human warrior would be like, probably crude and violent, with no understanding of proper behavior or culture. But if it meant saving her people from the Void Fleet, she would do what was necessary. After all, how difficult could one primitive human be to handle? Princess Zara sat in her personal starship as it approached Earth. The small, elegant vessel was painted in the royal colors of blue and silver. She had chosen her smallest ship for this mission because she did not want to seem threatening to the primitive humans. "Your Highness," said Captain Vex, her loyal guard and pilot, "are you certain about this plan? The Royal Council was very angry when you left." Zara looked out at the blue and green planet below them. It looked so small and peaceful compared to the great crystal cities of her homeworld. "The Council thinks I'm wasting time," she said. "They believe our technology and armies can defeat any enemy. But they did not read Queen Lyra's notes like I did. There's something special about humans that we do not understand." Captain Vex shook his head. He was old enough to remember when humans first achieved space travel. To him, they were still the weak species that needed help from stronger races. "Perhaps we should contact their government first," he suggested. "Ask them to send their greatest warrior to meet us properly." "No," Zara said firmly. "I want to see them as they really are, not putting on a show for visiting royalty. Take us down to one of their major population centers." Captain Vex began the landing sequence. But as they entered Earth's atmosphere, warning lights started flashing on the control panel. "Princess," Vex shouted, "we are being targeted by missiles." "Impossible," Zara said. "We sent peaceful communication signals. The missiles are not from their government," Vex replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "These appear to be rebel forces. The humans seem to be fighting among themselves." The ship shook as explosions burst around them. Vex tried to avoid the attacks, but one missile struck their rear engine. Smoke filled the cabin as the ship began to fall. "Emergency landing," Vex yelled. "Hold on, Your Highness." The ship crashed into a wooded area with a terrible noise of breaking metal and splintering trees. Zara felt herself thrown forward despite the safety restraints. Everything went dark. When she woke up, she heard voices speaking in the human language. Her universal translator was working, so she could understand them. To life signs in the crashed vessel, said a calm male voice. No immediate threats detected. Could be a trap, said another voice. Unknown alien technology. We should wait for backup. Negative. The first voice replied, if they are hurt, waiting could mean death. We go in now. Zara opened her eyes and saw several figures in strange camouflage, clothing approaching the wreck. They moved carefully but without fear. Each one carried advanced weapons and moved with practiced coordination. The leader reached her first. He was a human male with dark hair and steady brown eyes. His face was serious but not unkind. Can you understand me? He asked in careful, simple words. Yes, Zara replied, surprised by how gentle his voice was. I am Princess Zara of the Valtherian Empire. I come in peace. The human's expression did not change. I am Captain Marcus Chen, Earth Defense Forces. You are injured. We need to get you medical attention. As he helped her out of the wreck, Zara noticed how efficiently his team worked. One soldier was already helping Captain Vex, who was unconscious but breathing. Another was setting up a defensive perimeter. A third was scanning the area with electronic equipment. Your pilot will be fine, Marcus said. But we need to move. The group that shot you down is still in the area. Group? Zara asked, confused. I thought Earth had one government. Marcus gave her a quick look. Most of Earth is united. But there are always those who hate anything different. They shot you down because you were alien, not because of any crime you committed. As they moved through the forest, Zara watched the human soldiers work. They communicated with hand signals and brief words. Each person knew exactly what to do without being told. It reminded her of the coordinated movements of her own royal guard. But these humans were supposed to be primitive. Contact ahead. One soldier whispered into his radio. Hostile forces moving toward the crash site. Marcus held up his hand, and everyone stopped immediately. How many? He asked quietly. 12 fighters with heavy weapons, came the reply. They have vehicles. Zara expected Marcus to retreat. 12 enemies with vehicles against 5 humans on foot. Seemed impossible to fight, but Marcus was already making plans. Zara, take the princess and Vex to safety point Alpha, he ordered. Tom and Mike. With me. We will delay them. Captain, the soldier named Sarah said. 12 against 3 is not good odds. Marcus smiled for the first time. Since Zara had met him, since when do we worry about odds? What happened next amazed Zara. The 3 human soldiers did not attack the enemy directly. Instead, they used the forest itself as a weapon. They set up traps, used the terrain to confuse their enemies, and struck from unexpected directions. Zara watched from her hiding place as Marcus and his team made 12 enemies. With superior weapons look foolish. They did not fight like Valtherian warriors, who preferred direct combat and honorable duels. These humans fought like hunters, patient and clever. When the enemy vehicles approached, Tom disabled them with small explosive devices placed in exactly the right spots when the enemies tried to surround them. Mike led them into a trap where they could only attack one at a time. Marcus coordinated everything with quiet efficiency. Most surprising of all, when one enemy soldier was wounded and abandoned by his companions, the humans stopped fighting to give him medical aid. Why? Zara asked Sarah. He was trying to hurt you. Sarah looked at her with surprise. He is wounded. We do not leave wounded people to die, even enemies. This idea was completely foreign to Zara. In Valtherian culture, enemies were enemies. Until death. But these humans treated their defeated foes with kindness. Within an hour, the enemy force was either captured or had fled. None of the humans were seriously injured. Marcus returned to Zara with a satisfied expression. The immediate threat is gone, he said. But more will come. These extremist groups do not give up easily. You defeated 12 soldiers with only 3, Zara said, still hardly believing what she had seen. Marcus shrugged as if it was nothing special. We had advantages. We knew the terrain. We worked as a team. They were angry and made mistakes. Is this how all human warriors fight? Zara asked. This is how all humans fight, Marcus corrected her. We do not have a separate warrior class. Every soldier is trained to think, adapt, and work with others. We believe that intelligent teamwork is stronger than individual strength. As they walked toward the human military base, Zara realized something important. She had come to Earth expecting to find crude barbarians. Instead, she had found something much more interesting. These humans had a completely different way of thinking about conflict. They did not just fight to win, they fought to solve problems. They did not just defeat enemies, they found ways to turn enemies into neutralized threats. Without unnecessary death. Maybe Queen Lyra had been right. Maybe there really was something special about the way humans approach warfare. And maybe this Captain Marcus Chen was exactly the kind of warrior her people needed to face the Void Fleet. But first, she would have to convince him that the threat was real. At the human military base, Princess Zara sat in the medical center while doctors checked her injuries from the crash. Captain Marcus Chen waited nearby, reading reports on an electronic tablet. His calm manner impressed her, but she still doubted that any human could be the warrior mentioned in the ancient treaty. Captain Chen, she said when the doctors finished, I must ask you something important. Marcus looked up from his tablet. What can I help you with, Princess? My people face a terrible enemy, according to an old treaty. Only a human warrior can help us survive. But first, that warrior must prove their worth through our traditional trials. Marcus set down his tablet and gave her his full attention. What kind of trials? Zara explained about the Valkyrian test of strength, mental power, and strategic thinking. Each trial was designed for beings who lived for centuries and had natural abilities that humans did not possess. These trials have never been passed by any non-Valkyrian, she said. Even our strongest warriors sometimes fail them. And you want me to take these tests? Marcus asked. Yes, if you fail, it will prove that humans cannot help us. If you succeed, Zara paused. She did not really believe he could succeed. If you succeed, then perhaps the old treaty is wise. Marcus thought for a moment. What happens if I fail? Do I die? No, Zara said quickly. The trials test ability, not willingness to sacrifice life. You will be safe. Then I accept. Marcus said simply. 2 days later, Zara had set up the testing area in an empty warehouse at the military base. She had brought them portable trial equipment from her crashed ship. Captain Vex, who had recovered from his injuries, helped her prepare everything. This is foolish, Princess, Vex whispered. No human can pass these trials. When he fails, what will you do then? Then we will know that the treaty is worthless, Zara replied. But part of her hoped she was wrong. Marcus arrived with 2 members of his team, Sergeant Sarah Kim and Lieutenant Tom Rodriguez. Zara had said he could bring advisors, though she did not think they would help. The first trial is the test of strength, Zara announced. She activated a device that created a large metal cube. You must move this block from here to the marked circle. It weighs exactly 1,000 kilograms. For a Valkyrian warrior, this was difficult but possible. Their natural strength and energy manipulation abilities allowed them to lift such weights. But humans were much weaker than Valkyrians. Marcus walked around the cube, studying it carefully. Then he looked at the smooth warehouse floor and the marked circle 20 meters away. Sarah, he said, do we have any of those metal pipes from the construction project? Yes, sir. In the truck outside. Bring me 4 pipes, 2 meters long. Each, and Tom, get the portable winch from our equipment. Zara watched in confusion as the humans brought their tools. Marcus placed the pipes under the cube as levers and used the winch to create a pulley system. Within 15 minutes, he had moved the massive cube to the target circle without lifting it directly. This is not how the trial works, Zara protested. Did I move the cube to the circle? Marcus asked. Yes, but then I completed the trial. You did not say I had to lift it with my bare hands. Zara felt frustrated, but had to admit he was right. She activated the second test. The trial of mind reading, she announced. A complex holographic puzzle appeared in the air. You must solve this by reading the mental patterns of the person who created it. Valkyrians used telepathy for this trial. The puzzle was a 3-dimensional maze with constantly changing walls. The only way to solve it was to understand the thinking of the puzzle's creator. Marcus stared at the hologram for several minutes. Then he began asking Zara questions. Who made this puzzle? Master Kelvin, our greatest puzzle creator. How old was he when he made it? About 300 years old. Why does this matter? Marcus continued asking questions about Master Kelvin's background, his other work, and his personality. Then he began moving through the puzzle, making choices that seemed random to Zara. But within 30 minutes, he had solved the maze. How? Zara demanded. You have no telepathic abilities. I did not need telepathy, Marcus explained. I studied the puzzle creator instead of the puzzle. You told me he was 300 years old, conservative in his other work, and liked traditional patterns. So I looked for traditional Valthyrian geometric patterns in his maze design. Once I found the underlying pattern, the solution became clear. Zara stared at him. No one had ever solved that trial by studying the puzzle maker instead of using mental powers. The final trial, she said, her voice shaking slightly. The test of impossible strategy. A complex holographic battlefield appeared, showing to armies. One army was surrounded by enemies with superior numbers and weapons. The situation looked hopeless. You must find a way for the surrounded army to achieve victory, Zara said. This scenario has no solution. It is designed to test how a warrior thinks when facing certain defeat. Marcus studied the holographic battle for only a few minutes. Then he made a series of moves that shocked Zara. Instead of trying to save the surrounded army, he made them surrender. But before surrendering, he had the army destroy their own supplies and weapons. The enemy won the battle but gained nothing useful. Meanwhile, Marcus moved other forces to capture the enemy's undefended home territory. You lost the battle on purpose, Zara said in amazement. I won the war, Marcus corrected. Sometimes losing one battle is the best way to win the larger conflict. The enemy wasted time and resources capturing an army that could not help them anymore. This concept was completely foreign to Valthyrian thinking. Her people believed in honorable victory or honorable defeat. The idea of deliberately losing to gain advantage later was revolutionary. How did you think of this strategy? She asked. It is a common human military principle. Marcus said, we call it tactical retreat for strategic advantage. Sometimes the best way to win is to let your enemy think they are winning. Tom spoke up. Captain, should I tell her about the time we pretended to lose an entire space station to capture the enemy's main fleet? That is classified, Marcus said with a small smile. But yes, humans often win by appearing to lose first. Zara sat down heavily, her mind spinning. Marcus had passed all 3 trials, but not in any way she had expected. He had used tools instead of strength, psychology instead of telepathy, and unconventional thinking instead of traditional strategy. I did not understand, she said. These trials were designed to be impossible for non-Valthyrians. How did you succeed? Maybe, Marcus said gently. The trials were designed by people who only knew one way to solve problems. Humans have learned that there are always multiple solutions to any challenge, but you are supposed to be primitive. Zara said, almost to herself, we are different, Marcus corrected. Different does not mean primitive. It just means we approach problems differently than you do. For the first time since leaving her homeworld, Zara began to believe that the ancient treaty might be wise. Queen Lyra had been right. Humans did think about challenges in ways that other species could not understand. But now she faced a bigger problem. The trials had proven that Marcus was worthy, according to Valthyrian law. But how could she convince him to help her people fight an enemy he had never seen? And more importantly, how could she explain that the treaty required them to be married? Princess Zara was about to explain the marriage requirement to Captain Marcus when her communication device began flashing with urgent red lights. She activated it quickly, and Admiral Corex's worried face appeared in the hologram. Princess Zara, the Admiral said, you must return immediately. The enemy has attacked our outer colonies. The situation is worse than we thought. How bad is it? Zara asked, her heart sinking. 3 colonies have been completely destroyed. Not conquered, Princess, destroyed. They are simply gone, as if they never existed. Marcus stepped closer to hear the conversation. What do you mean, gone? Admiral Quarks noticed the human for the first time. Who is this primitive? This is Captain Marcus Chen, Zara interrupted firmly. He is the warrior mentioned in the ancient treaty. Speak freely. The admiral looked doubtful, but continued. Captain Chen, these enemies do not fight like any species we know. They do not capture our worlds or steal our resources. They make entire planets disappear from reality itself. Marcus frowned. Can you show us the sensor data? A human wants to see our military information? Admiral Quarks asked in surprise. Show him, Zara ordered. She had learned to trust Marcus's unusual way of thinking. The hologram changed to show recordings from the attacked colonies. Marcus watched carefully as strange, dark ships appeared near a planet. The ships did not fire weapons. Instead, they seemed to drain something from the world itself. Within hours, the planet began to fade like a dying light until nothing remained but empty space. They are consuming the fundamental forces that hold matter together, Marcus said quietly. This is not just military conquest. This is reality destruction. Exactly, Admiral Quarks said, impressed despite himself. Our greatest weapons cannot harm them because they exist partially outside normal spacetime. How many ships? Marcus asked. The advanced force has 12 vessels. But our long-range sensors detect a main fleet of over 100 ships approaching our territory. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he asked, how are your people responding to this threat? Our high command is preparing for honorable battle, Admiral Quarks said proudly. We will fight with courage and dignity, as our ancestors did. And if you lose, Admiral Quarks looked confused by the question. Then we will die with honor, knowing we fought our best. Marcus turned to Zara. Your people need to come to Earth immediately. All of them. What? Zara was shocked. You want us to abandon our homeworld. I want you to survive. Marcus said simply, this enemy cannot be fought with traditional tactics. We need time to study them, learn their weaknesses, and develop new strategies. Admiral Quarks became angry. Humans suggest we run away like cowards? Humans suggest you live to fight another day, Marcus replied calmly. Dead heroes cannot protect anyone. This idea horrified the admiral. In Valtherian culture, retreating from battle was the greatest shame possible. But Zara remembered Queen Lyra's notes about human thinking being different. Admiral, she said carefully, contact the High Command. Tell them I am invoking the Ancient Human Alliance Treaty. We need immediate emergency coordination with Earth's government. Princess, you cannot be serious. Do it now, Zara commanded, and prepare our fastest ships for evacuation of essential personnel. The next 12 hours were chaos. Valtherian military leaders argued fiercely about Zara's plan. Many called her a coward for suggesting retreat. But as more reports came in about the Void Fleet's advance, even the proudest generals began to worry. Marcus worked with Earth's military command to prepare for the Valtherian refugees. He also requested immediate analysis of all available data about the Void ships. What are you thinking? Zara asked him as they watched Earth's scientists study the sensor recordings. I am thinking about what makes these enemies different. Marcus said, they consume reality itself. Traditional weapons cannot touch them. But there must be something we can do. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been promoted to lead the research team, approached them with her findings. Captain, we have discovered something interesting, she said. These void ships seem to feed on organized energy, the kind found in planets, stars, and advanced technology, but they avoid areas of chaos and randomness. What kind of chaos? Marcus asked. Natural phenomena like asteroid fields, solar storms, and cosmic radiation. Also, interestingly, they seem to avoid areas where multiple different technologies are being used at the same time. Marcus smiled for the first time in hours. That gives me an idea. Meanwhile, the first Valtherian refugee ships began arriving at Earth. The proud alien warriors were unhappy about abandoning their homeworld, but they followed Princess Zara's orders. Admiral Quarks commanded the largest Valtherian warship, a magnificent vessel called the Star of Honor. He met with Marcus and Zara to plan their next move. The main Void fleet will reach our homeworld in 3 days, Orcs reported. Our remaining forces there are preparing for final battle. No, Marcus said firmly. Order them to retreat to Earth as well. Impossible, Orcs shouted. We do not abandon our people. You are not abandoning them. Marcus explained patiently. You are saving them. I have a plan. But it requires all of your ships and all of our ships working together. What kind of plan? Zara asked. Marcus activated a holographic display showing the solar system. We are going to give the Void fleet exactly what they want, a big target full of organized energy. But we are going to make that target a trap. He explained his strategy. Instead of fighting the Void fleet directly, they would lure them into the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. There, they would create artificial chaos using mixed human and Valkyrian technology. The key is making our technology incompatible on purpose, Marcus said. We will mix different energy types, different ship designs, different weapon frequencies. Create so much technological chaos that the Void ships cannot process it properly. Admiral Orcs looked skeptical. You want us to make our fleets work badly on purpose? Exactly. Humans have learned that sometimes the best weapon is confusion. If the enemy cannot understand what you are doing, they cannot counter it effectively. The plan shocked the Valkyrian officers, their whole military. Philosophy was based on perfect coordination and efficient technology. The idea of deliberately creating chaos felt wrong to them. But as the Void fleet approached Earth's solar system, even the most traditional Valkyrian generals agreed to try Marcus's plan. The combined human Valkyrian fleet positioned itself in the asteroid belt, human ships mixed with Valkyrian vessels, in apparently random patterns. Different weapons systems charged with conflicting energy frequencies. Communication networks deliberately overlapped and interfered with each other. To any observer, the combined fleet looked disorganized and weak. When the Void fleet arrived, they moved toward this chaotic target like predators sensing easy prey. But as they entered the asteroid field, something unexpected happened. The mixed technologies created energy patterns that the Void ships could not absorb properly. Their reality-draining systems began to malfunction. Now, Marcus ordered. The chaotic fleet suddenly revealed its true coordination. Every ship knew exactly what to do. The apparent confusion had been carefully planned theater. Human ships fired kinetic weapons, while Valkyrian ships used energy beams. The mixed attacks created overlapping fields that trapped the Void ships. In normal space-time, for the first time in the war, the mysterious enemies were vulnerable. But the battle was far from over. The Void fleet was huge, and they were learning to adapt to the human strategy. Princess, Marcus said to Zara as explosions lit up the asteroid field around them. I think it is time to discuss that marriage treaty. The space battle raged around the asteroid field, as human and Valkyrian ships fought side by side against the Void fleet. Princess Zara stood on the bridge of the Star of Honor, next to Captain Marcus, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. The trap worked for the first wave, Marcus said, but they are adapting faster than I expected. On the screens, the Void ships had changed their approach. Instead of trying to drain energy from the chaotic mixed fleet, they were targeting individual ships with focused reality destruction beams. We are losing vessels, Admiral Orcs reported grimly. The enemy has learned to counter our technological confusion strategy. Zara felt fear growing in her heart. Even Marcus's brilliant plan was not enough. The Void fleet was simply too large and too adaptable. Captain Chen, she said quietly, we need to discuss the marriage treaty now. Marcus nodded, though his eyes never left the tactical display. What exactly does this treaty require? The heir to the Valkyrian throne must be joined with a human warrior to unite our peoples against the Void threat, Zara recited. I thought this meant a traditional marriage ceremony. But it does not, does it? Marcus asked, studying her face. Zara shook her head slowly. I have been reading Queen Lyra's private notes during the journey here. The marriage she wrote about was not between two people. It was between two ways of thinking. She activated her personal data pad and showed Marcus a passage from the ancient queen's journal. Listen to this. She said, reading aloud, the human general spoke of something called acceptable victory. He said, "We do not need to win perfectly. We only need to win enough." This concept is unknown to our people, but perhaps it should not be. Our search for perfect victory may be why we lose, and their acceptance of imperfect victory may be why they win. Marcus understood immediately. Your people fight to preserve what you have. My people fight to achieve what we need. Exactly, Zara said. The treaty is not about a wedding ceremony. It is about permanently joining Valtherian strategic patience with human tactical adaptation. On the battle display, another Valtherian ship disappeared as a void vessel's reality beam struck it. Admiral Orcs clenched his fists in frustration. "We are fighting with honor," he said, "but honor is not enough. Then let us fight to win instead." Marcus suggested, "Admiral, I need you to order something that will feel wrong to every Valtherian instinct." "What?" "Order your ships to deliberately take damage. Make the enemy think they are winning." Admiral Orcs stared at him in shock. "You want us to sacrifice our vessels?" "I want you to sacrifice some vessels to save all vessels," Marcus corrected. "Princess Zara will coordinate with my fleet. We will show you how to lose battles in order to win the war." What followed was the strangest space battle in galactic history. Under Zara and Marcus's joint command, the combined fleet began to implement a strategy that neither species could have developed alone. Valtherian ships, with their superior shields and long-range weapons, drew the attention of the Void Fleet. They appeared to be retreating in panic, taking damage and seeming to fail. But this was deliberate theater, carefully coordinated with human tactical doctrine. Meanwhile, human ships used their smaller size and adaptability to slip past the Void ship's defenses. They did not try to destroy the enemy vessels. Instead, they planted experimental devices that Dr. Kim's team had developed. "What are those devices supposed to do?" Zara asked as she watched human fighters dart between the massive Void ships. "They create small pockets of forced technological chaos," Marcus explained. "If we can plant enough of them, we can turn the enemy's reality-draining ability against itself." The strategy required perfect timing and coordination. Valtherian ships had to appear vulnerable while maintaining precise positions. Human ships had to take enormous risks to place the devices without being detected. Most importantly, both species had to trust each other completely. Valtherians had to trust that deliberate retreat was not cowardice. Humans had to trust that Valtherian patience would hold the formation together. "This is not how my people fight," Admiral Orcs said as he watched his ships deliberately take damage. "This is not how my people fight either," Marcus replied. "This is how our combined peoples fight." The plan reached its critical moment when the largest Void ship, a massive vessel twice the size of any other, moved to destroy the Star of Honor. This was the enemy command ship, and its destruction would cripple the entire Void fleet. "Princess," Marcus said quietly, "this is where the marriage treaty comes into effect. We need to make a decision together that neither of our species would make alone." On the tactical display, they could see the enemy command ship approaching. Traditional Valtherian strategy would be to fight it directly with honor. Traditional human strategy would be to avoid it and attack its weaknesses. But Zara and Marcus chose a third option. "Admiral Orcs," Zara ordered, "prepare to ram the enemy command ship." "Princess," Orcs protested, "that would destroy the Star of Honor and everyone aboard." And Marcus, she continued, looking at the human captain, "prepare your fastest ships to escape the collision at the last moment. Take all personnel off the Star of Honor first." Marcus smiled with admiration. A Valtherian sacrifice combined with human survival tactics. They will never expect us to do both at the same time. The final phase of the battle was breathtaking. The Star of Honor, carrying only a skeleton crew of volunteers, accelerated directly toward the enemy command ship. At the same time, human transport vessels swarmed around the Valtherian flagship, evacuating everyone possible. The Void command ship, expecting either honorable combat or clever evasion, was completely unprepared for a coordinated sacrifice and rescue operation. When the Star of Honor struck the enemy vessel, both ships were destroyed in a massive explosion. But the collision activated all the chaos devices. that human fighters had planted throughout the Void Fleet, the enemy's reality-draining systems, overwhelmed by artificial technological chaos, began to malfunction catastrophically. One by one, Void ships lost their ability to exist partially outside normal space-time. "They are trapped in our reality now," Dr. Kim reported excitedly. "Their ships are vulnerable to conventional weapons." The remaining battle was swift. Void ships designed to drain reality could not defend against normal space combat. The combined human-Valtherian fleet destroyed the enemy forces methodically and efficiently. As the last Void ship exploded, Zara and Marcus stood together on the bridge of a human cruiser, watching the end of a 1,000-year threat. "The marriage is complete," Zara said quietly. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "We just proved that human and Valtherian thinking can be permanently joined," she explained. "Your people will teach us about acceptable victory and tactical adaptation. My people will teach you about strategic patience and long-term planning." Marcus nodded. "A political alliance, not a personal one. The most important alliance in galactic history," Zara agreed. "Queen Lyra knew that neither of our species could defeat the Void Fleet alone. But together, we think in ways that no enemy can predict or counter." 6 months later, the Human-Valtherian Alliance was formally established. Joint military academies taught combined tactics to both species. Human officers learned Valtherian strategic planning, while Valtherian commanders studied human adaptability principles. Princess Zara became the Alliance's first Supreme Coordinator, working with Captain Marcus Chen, who had been promoted to Admiral of Joint Operations. The galaxy was finally safe from the Void Fleet, but more importantly, the species had learned that their greatest strength came not from individual superiority, but from the marriage of different ways of thinking about survival, victory, and what it truly meant to be strong. The ancient treaty had been fulfilled, not through a wedding ceremony, but through the permanent union of human ingenuity with Valtherian wisdom, and in the end, that union proved stronger than any enemy the universe could send against them.